Greetings, I am Toglin, Hell's Harlequin, but you may call me Tog. Today my video is completely unscripted, which isn't too bad because some of you seem to enjoy that. I also apologize if my audio quality is a little bit different just because I'm using a screen recording software right now. But I was watching a video by Miss Misa earlier today, and there's something that she does that really bothers me. In fact, it's not just something she does. A lot of people online do this. And I am just completely ridiculous and let little things bug me all the time. But anyways, I'll show you what I'm talking about. She decided to switch to an avatar, which isn't bad. I use an avatar. However, what really bugs me is inappropriate clothing folds. And I don't mean inappropriate as in, oh my. I mean inappropriate as in, they make no sense. What are those? I don't understand. Is that supposed to be pleating? If it's pleating, it should actually have a center gather point and then pull from there. As well as all the little lines around the buttons make absolutely no logical sense either, because generally lines close to your buttons indicate tightness. Yet, as we can see, the garment does not look like it's overtly tight. And the lines aren't actually appropriate for showing tightness, as well as the way they're shaded doesn't make sense because I just can't follow how the fabric moves. You see, each line that you put in a piece of fabric will actually change the way the fabric moves and fits. And how you shade the fabric is very important for having the eyes follow how the fabric itself is moving and gathering. She has little folds, yet there's no actual gather points or anything like that. And some of them aren't even that close to the buttons. I'm not even sure what could be pulling on the fabric to make it move like that. And it's not folded the right way to indicate looseness. If you're going to indicate looseness, usually it's a larger fold for a horizontal indication. And for vertical, you just sort of more put those on the bottom as a place where you can see where, well, there'd be more of a vertical line to see where the fabric is able to fold in on itself. As you can see, well, as indicated, all of the folds and creases show either a place where the fabric is loose so it's able to gather, or a fabric where it's being pulled tight, so therefore you would see strain. This is my most recent fan art of Miss Misa. You can see I'm still a fan. I'm just bothered by a lot of sort of amateur art because a lot of people I don't see anyone really calling them out for very obvious art mistakes. I know, they're not professionals, it's just probably something they do for fun. However, if you're going to put your art online, that it should be free to be criticized. And I've always liked critiques. It's the only way you can get better. Anyway. Right here I have a gather point because I'm assuming that's what the pulling around the buttons is supposed to indicate. But this is the proper way to do it. The rest of the outfit fits pretty well, so I only have one gather point where the main strain of the top button is holding the shirt together. So you can actually see a little bit of pulling right here. And you can see where it folds in and where it folds out. These would be raised, while underneath would actually have a bit of a shadow to it. Another thing is, I think these are meant to be pleating. However, there's no way that if you're going to have a pleated garment like this has an indication of sticking up, yet these are way, way too wide for points of pleating. Unless you're having more of a thick pleating, but then it should actually stretch out. Otherwise, the garment would be very, very loose right here. So these folds are just completely inappropriate for what I think is the aim of them. I'm assuming it is. But yeah, this would actually be how you would show a point of pleating on a shirt, because I've actually seen button-up shirts with a little bit of a mild pleating right across the chest right here. See, these are horizontal lines, well, more or less horizontal lines of looseness, where you can see that because the arm is raised, it allows the material to fall. However, the edge of the chest is interrupting this one's fall, which is adding additional creasing to it. Every single line you make, especially in the more simple the art style, the more the lines matter. If it doesn't contribute to the detail of the piece, then don't add it. Hashtag every line. Hashtag all lines matter. Every line matters. All line matters. I don't know. I screwed up my own joke. Oh. Yeah, sorry if my lines are a little bit messy. I just kind of quickly threw this one together. So I could have spent longer on my lines, but unfortunately I did not. This right here will show you a horizontal line of looseness like I was talking about. As you can see, the shirt is being pushed right here against the body, so you can see a little bit of just creasing from it being caught up right here, because obviously the edge of the chest, or actually be behind the breast, the side of the body would actually have snagged it a bit and actually pushed it down a bit, or, you know, creased it over. Well, that's allowed to happen. This is a little bit loose, so therefore that makes the material free to gather because it's a very loose material. Well, it's a very lightweight material. Heavier materials generally keep their structure a lot better even when they're loose, just because the weight of them makes them harder to crinkle. Usually if you have a folds in a heavier material like a denim or a leather or maybe a very strong tweed, then you're going to actually have a lot larger folds, and it'll take a lot more action to get it to fold. Like, I've noticed a lot of people when they draw suit jackets add way too many folds, and it just, another thing that bugs me. So, when you're actually detailing a material, you should actually be able to tell what kind of material it is just by the type of lines you put, at least if it's that complicated of an art style. Another thing to keep in mind is that the type of detail you put into the material should match the type of detail in your art style. Because if you have like a very chibi character with a very detailed, folded, textured dress, it can look really weird and uncanny. As well as you have to keep that in mind with shading style as too, because I've seen a lot of people do very cartoony work and do a very sort of realistic soft shading with it, and it just looks really creepy. It's not cute. You just want to make sure your level of detail matches the art style you're going for. I've also seen a lot of people do really bad soft shading where it kind of looks like clay. I warn anyone who wants to try soft shading not to really do it if you... Well, I warn anyone who wants to try because it's actually harder to make it look right soft shaded, because that's usually reserved for more of realistic style drawings. I would say stick to cell shading if you're going to do more of a cartoony style. What's the difference between soft and cell shading? Well, this whole thing has been cell shaded. As you can see, it's just 2 or 3 different shading colors, has just minor details shown with very simple shading, rather than having any of the shadows blend into the piece. It's basically an unblended style, which looks really, really good for more of that sharp effect. Well, actually, I think all cartoons you watch will be more cel-shaded, if they're shaded at all. Although for my avatar, I actually rather like the way she looks in flat colors. This would be a bit of a mix between soft and cel shading. There's a little bit of the cel shading lines, but as I can see, there's a little bit of blending going on. I still like having more of a sharp cel style just because it's more interesting to play with the shapes, although there is challenges to that as well, because it's really easy to make your edges look rather messy, or whatever shading style you use has its own complications. Even flat shading or even flat colors can have its own level of complications. If you do something flat, then people are more likely to notice any mistakes. But back to clothing, because that's the topic at hand. One thing that also really bothers me is the way the foldings are in the shirt of the arm. This should not be flaring out right here because the arm would be pressed right up against it. And if it is, there should only be a little bit of a line to indicate that this is a bit loose. It just looks very strange to me, especially since it kind of looks like the arms are attached to the shirt separately because your eyes just don't follow it correctly with the way it's shaded. It just looks like the space in there is very narrow. This other arm doesn't have quite as bad of a problem. However, I would have shown a bit of folding because you can tell very clearly that part of the shirt is pressed against the body. And then this would have probably been less folded as I had on my piece. Basically, for any aspiring artists out there, clothing is difficult, and it should be, just because there's a lot of things to consider when you're doing detailed pieces or any sort of creative pieces. If you want to go from amateur to more of a professional quality, you have to keep all details in mind and take everything into consideration. That's one of the reasons why when you're first drawing humans that they teach you to draw them naked, because if you're actually drawing clothing correctly, drawing someone naked would actually be a lot easier than drawing someone in clothes. So yes, if it's easier for you to draw someone fully clothed than naked, then you're not drawing clothing correctly. Anyway, these are my thoughts. I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I wish all of you a pleasant rest of your day.